Hey guys, so I am all purpled out today. Today I want to talk about fibromyalgia and fibromyalgia awareness. May is our month for our awareness, and our awareness day is May 12th. So a lot of you guys that don't have fibromyalgia have asked me about it, and I always like to make fibromyalgia videos because it is a thing that so many people don't know about. Or they don't understand, or they've heard it, or they've seen like a Lyrica commercial, or the worst thing is they've seen jokes about it in movies and TV shows where they make jokes about fibromyalgia not being real. And that is one of the harshest realities of our condition, is that so many people take it as a joke, or so many people don't think it's real, or they don't understand it. So I got fibromyalgia quite young. From what I understand, and most of the people I know with it, they get it when they're a little bit older. I got it when I was around 23, 24, and I didn't know what was going on with me. But first, I'm just going to read you the standard symptoms list of fibromyalgia so you guys can kind of understand what we go through. But I want you to understand, everyone with fibromyalgia is different. The harsh thing about fibromyalgia too is that we all have so many symptoms, and they can be so different, and some can be worse than others in some people, and it sucks really bad. But standard textbook symptoms I'm going to read to you guys, and then I'm going to talk to you guys what it's like actually having it. So this is just listed under symptoms for it. Pain in muscles, elbow, neck, back, abdomen, can occur at night, can be chronic, throbbing, stabbing, diffuse, severe. Sleep disturbances, difficulty falling asleep or sleepiness, pins and needles, sensitivity to cold, sensitivity to pain, muscle tenderness, delayed onset muscle soreness, muscle spasms, tingling or sensation of coldness in your hands, bloating or constipation, IBS, anxiety, depression, mood swings, nervousness, lack of concentration, forgetfulness, cognitive memory problems, feeling tired, nauseous, or fatigued, acute episodes of irritability, joint stiffness, feet tingling, headache, painful menstruals. So the easiest way I find it, there's something out there called the spoon theory, written by a woman with lupus, but a lot of people in the fibro community also share that because it's a great way to understand chronic illness and chronic pain conditions in general. But the easiest way I can reach people and tell them what my life is like with fibro is, when you have the flu and everything in your body hurts, it just aches, you're in pain, your head hurts, you're tired, you don't want to do anything, you feel beat down, you feel like a truck ran over you, you feel like shit. That is every day of my life. And sometimes on top of that, when you have a flare, it gets worse. Like, you feel worse than that. And that's kind of when you guys hear me talk about, I'm in a flare, I'm having a bad fibro day. So imagine you have the flu and it gets worse. That's what a bad fibro day is like for me. That's just the easiest way for me to explain it to people. I think even when I explain it to people, like I've explained it to my brother before, he'll be the first one to say he doesn't know much about it. Which, if somebody in your life has fibro, please make an effort to understand. So many people don't even understand what it is or what we go through, that it can be really depressing on top of already dealing with these things. So my brother told me not too long ago that he has bulging discs, and he actually had to have a procedure done on his back, and he was like, every day since I've started having this pain, my pain level, they're like a 1 to 10. He's like, my pain level is always at a 5. And if I do something or shift wrong, it goes to a 10. I'm like, what you're experiencing right now, that's my life with fibro. And I think it took him aback. He was like, what? What do you mean? What? Like, I don't think he understood that every day of my life I'm in extreme chronic pain. And I've talked to you guys about people with fibro writing me hateful things. Because sometimes people get so depressed and wrapped up in their fibro they become very angry. And I've been there. I understand that. Not everybody can be at the mindset that whether I'm sitting here on the couch or in my bed or wherever, or if I'm doing these things or living my life, either way I'm going to be in pain. I do have to pace my life differently. You know, spring cleaning took me 2 weeks. Some people can do it in 2 days, but when you have fibromyalgia, you can't. And there are some, you know, I have to pace myself so that I don't get to that worst level, if that makes sense. So there's the reason that so many people, I think it's made up, or it's in our heads, or we're crazy, is because it's listed as like, I can't remember what the term is, but it is a brain condition, because it's there's nobody knows for sure solid like this is exactly what caused it, but most of the theories around are that it is our brains doing things to our nerves that are causing this intense pain, if that makes sense. It's I'm the worst person at explaining things, but if you look it up, basically how I try to explain it to people is it's my brain sending the wrong messages to my nerves. That is very popular, one of the theories. Another one is that our brain is making our pain receptors more sensitive than most people's. There's a few things, but it all kind of comes back to our nerves having issues. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. I'm terrible at tutorials and I'm terrible at stuff like this, so I hope y'all are staying with me. So I want to tell my kind of experience. It might get a little depressing, but I went around for about 3 years, and I went from doctor to doctor. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. It was really scary. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I had to have something really wrong with me that they couldn't figure out. By the time they figured it out, it would be too late. That's how scary it was when it started. Finally, a doctor thought I had lupus. So they sent me to a rheumatologist, and they gave me, I guess it's a blood test for lupus. They're like, okay, you don't have lupus. But after listening to my symptoms and telling him what I go through, he goes, I'm going to touch you in a few places. Just relax. First place he touched me, he applied pressure. I about came off that table. There are trigger points in our body that are extremely sensitive. A lot of doctors don't use the trigger point test anymore, but he just, on top of my symptoms, he said, I knew what you had when you told me what you were going through. But I wanted to see, which I was like, well, if you knew what I had, why the hell would you do that to me? But he was like, I wanted to test your trigger points. So he looked at me and said, you don't have lupus, you have fibromyalgia. He handed me a packet about it. We talked about it for a little while, but not extremely, like, too much stuff. He was like, this is the medication I'm starting you on. You're going to do this, this, and this. And the whole time I was like, fibromyalgia, what? What do I have? Like, I never heard of this before. Like, what is this? So basically I went home with a prescription, and I got online, and I started researching, and I was like, oh my God, this is everything I've been going through. At least it's not cancer. I remember thinking, at least it can't kill me. So that was one positive first thought I had. I said, but I remember finding this video on YouTube, and it was the most emo, depressing video with the saddest, most depressing music, with like the most depressing parts of having fibromyalgia. And I sat there and watched that thing probably 15 times, and I just cried. Because the one thing I noticed was there is no cure. And people talking about it online that had this said that no matter how much medication they give you, there's nothing they can do to stop the pain. They can dull it, they can make life easier, but they can't stop. You're never going to feel normal again. And I remember thinking, I'm going to have to be like this for the rest of my life? because at that time I could remember what it felt like to be normal, to not have that pain, to not feel like that. As I've gotten older now, I'm 31, I have forgotten what it's like to feel normal. I don't know what it's like to feel like most of you guys that don't have fibro. So I've kind of adjusted. This is my life. This is how I live it. But I remember at the time, I was mad. And I was upset. I was like, why have I never heard of this? Why are so many people going through this and they have it and you don't hear about it, and this is horrible. Up until probably 15 years ago, there was like, a lot of people didn't think it was real, even doctors. There still today are some older doctors. From what I've experienced, it's usually like much older doctors that are close to retirement that still don't really understand it and don't really look at it seriously. So I think somebody made a really good point, and I'm sorry at the moment I cannot remember who it was. If it was you, say it in the comments. Give yourself credit, because they made me realize something. The people that kind of bully me, the people with fibro that bully me, are probably people that have gotten fibro when they're older. So they're probably going through what I did at first, where it's like, this is so debilitating, this is so awful, this is horrible. Like, you know, they're probably still going through that, and they can probably still remember what it is to feel normal, and they don't realize that at my age, I've had this a long time now, so this has become normal for me, and I've learned to function with it differently than somebody that has just got it recently or has had a longer life of being normal, if that makes sense. So like I said, that doctor sent me home with tons of medication. I have tried, and this was like medication you take every day. Like if you have high blood pressure, you take medicine every day. They sent me home with medications that were supposed to help with my pain to take every day. So I was like, tried gabapentin, I tried Lyrica, I tried something else, and I felt worse. I couldn't walk. I had no balance. Like sometimes I still have to use a cane even now, but I was having to use a cane all the time. I was falling everywhere. I was scaring myself. I couldn't function. It just made it worse on top of having the pain. The tiniest, smallest amount of pain relief I got wasn't worth the quality of life I was living. So over the years, I've worked with my doctor that, I guess because I've kind of learned to live around this pain, and this is my life, and I'm blessed enough to not have to work outside my home anymore, that I'm not getting as many flares as I used to. So I'm very lucky in that sense that I have been able to live off of medication, take more natural routes, and I'm given medication. I have stronger Vicodin given to me for my fibro than most people do who just had a major surgery. One of the strongest Vicodins they make. I just want you guys to understand about the medication they give us and the reality of how much pain we're in and how it doesn't fix things. It does give me some relief, but you would think if it can give people really great relief, like after surgery and stuff, that the strongest one would make me feel a lot better than it does. It helps me function better. That's about it. I wouldn't say it takes away a lot of pain or most of my pain even. But when I'm having an extremely bad day and I have to take it, it just makes it so that instead of being stuck in the bed all day, I'm stuck in the bed all day and I can go to the bathroom by myself, and I can go to the kitchen and make my own food. So if that kind of gives you guys an understanding of what that's like. When I first got sick, fibromyalgia is a funny thing. I think it's kind of like arthritis and stuff. if you move around and do too much, then you're going to regret it. And you're going to be stuck in a lot of pain and pretty much immobile for a while afterwards. If you don't do anything, it's the same thing. So you have to kind of keep moving through the pain, but not too much. It's a very, very fine line. I remember one time I had the worst flare. I was in bed probably like 2.5 weeks. I couldn't really do anything. Personally, for me, when like with fibro and stuff, I have never thought of suicide. That is not something that's ever crossed my mind in the sense of something that I would do. I have thought about that, the fact that the statistics are so high for people living with chronic pain and suicide. It's a very high suicide rate. And it's not just fibromyalgia, it's people living with chronic pain conditions like that. Anyway, it's a high suicide rate. And because I guess I've never really thought of taking my own life, I've kind of always wondered, like, life is so precious, how could you ever think of doing something like that? And then I got stuck in bed for 2.5 weeks. And I didn't think of killing myself or anything like that. The thought crossed my mind that if people live like this all the time, I can see that thought crossing their mind. Not saying I can see them killing themselves, but I can see why people might think about it, if that makes sense. And that was scary. You know, this is a lot of personal stuff, but I just want to be really honest with you guys. So fibromyalgia can do so much to our bodies. I'm going to talk about my biggest symptoms besides overall pain in my daily life, that kind of flu feeling that we were talking about. I have a lot of issues with muscle spasms, and the other medication I'm giving is a very strong muscle relaxer, because sometimes my body, especially when I'm lying in bed at night, will sit there and just contract. I feel like it feels like after about an hour that I've done an intense, crazy workout or a marathon or something, my body will just be spasming. So when things like that happen, I do have to take a muscle relaxer. Well, that's something that's super frustrating and annoying, but because we have so much stuff going on in our brains and like the nerves issues and stuff, a lot of us have insomnia. I've talked about that before with you guys. Not that this is something to be proud of, but my all-time score with insomnia has been 3 days awake. And that was my doctor giving me, okay, here's Ambien, here's this. We've got to find something to knock her out. And finally think I passed out of exhaustion. But I took Ambien for the longest because I would go in these phases of not sleeping. And then I was sitting in my doctor's office one day and waiting to see my rheumatologist. And on the TV, the news was talking about people that take medications like Ambien regularly and sleeping medications regularly have a higher death rate. And I was like, well, that's freaking scary. So I was like, that's it, no more Ambien. Coming off Ambien was a nightmare. And what I do now is if I go into those cycles where I have not slept, I give myself a full day and say today, I have my whole day. Tonight, I don't go to sleep at all, and then we're into the next day and the next night. If I don't fall asleep that night, then I will take Ambien the following day, if that makes sense. But Ambien is not something I take on the regular. I find that if I work out, if I don't have caffeine past a certain time, I do all these crazy little things, then usually I can get some sleep. You know, there's a lot of nights where I'm awake till 5 a.m. and then I wake up at 8 a.m. It just is what it is. Muscle spasms are a big issue for me. Insomnia is bad for me. The all over soreness muscle issue. I luckily do not have IBS. I am so grateful I do not have the irritable bowel syndrome, because that has got to suck so bad. I do have the migraines and the headaches really bad. I do have medicine for that. Usually I try not to take it. Usually I will just lay in bed and ride it out and try to sleep. Or I'll try to take kind of like I take a medication that's, a lot of you guys have told me like, oh, take Excedrin migraine. The medication I take is kind of like that. It does the same thing. It has the anti-inflammatory aspect and the caffeine, but it's just a prescription higher dosage than you could buy over the counter. So if need be, I take that. So we have that issue. Then I have lots of little issues that come from living with chronic pain. One of them I want to talk about is I have bursitis. I never in my life had bursitis. Even before I got fibro and being overweight, I didn't even know what bursitis was. My rheumatologist thinks it's because when I'm in pain, because of when it happens is usually around a flare or when I've been in more pain than usual. When I'm in pain, I walk differently. I move differently, and that triggers bursitis. Bursitis is when the fluid in between your joints kind of swells up and it makes it hard to use that joint, from what I believe I'm saying that right. So what I do when that happens and it's really bad is I have to rest it. I can't walk. It happens in my hips the most. That's when it happens, and that's why he thinks that because I'm shifting around and I'm walking differently or how in a way that you shouldn't walk because I'm in pain. And if I have to walk around with that, then I usually have to use a cane or I fall. Just like when my muscle spasms are really bad, I have to use a cane or I will fall. So if it's really bad, for instance, I had a flare up a week before a race. I was excited. I have trained. I was going to do my mud run obstacle course race. And my rheumatologist said I was crazy. But I told him I have to do this for myself. Like, I want to do this for myself. And he was like, I respect that. I understand that. So, and sometimes I have to get this done just because the bursitis is getting bad and I need to function. I'll go to the doctor and they bring in a needle that's about, like, not kidding you guys, this big. And they put me on my side and they spray this cold stuff on my hip. It's supposed to make me not feel it. It doesn't make me feel it at first. And then they take that really long needle and they put it between the joint of my hips, like where that fluid is, and they inject cortisone into it to make the swelling to go down to help with pain. I remember the first time I got it done, I was freaking out, you guys. I do not like needles. I was freaking out. And they took that big needle and they put it in. I was like, oh, this isn't so bad, till they got to the joint and they pushed the fluid in. It was the most painful, strangest pressure feeling ever. It just was bizarre. It freaked me out. I was like, this is terrible. Ugh. So yeah, that's just a little bit about bursitis. There's just so many things in my life that happen with fibro. I could sit here and list it, but we've kind of already gone over that. I just want you guys to know what it is. A lot of you guys see me happy, and that's the way I like to be. Fibro is something I have. It's a part of me. It's not my whole life. It doesn't define me. I don't let it define me. I don't let it take over my life because I've let it do that before. And there's people in my life that don't get it. That's painful and that's hurtful, but I've learned that it is what it is. I can't make them get it. If they don't understand it, if they don't want to understand it, well, then that's their problem, not mine. Living your life changes a lot with fibro. When I fly, I can't do anything that involves walking a lot the following day for flying. So one year we went to Disneyland as a family. I told my family, if we're going to Disneyland the day after flying, it's going to be bad. But we were there for a short time and it was what it was. We had to do what we had to do. Probably 4 hours in, I was in a wheelchair in Disneyland, and that was my experience, and it was terrible. It wasn't fun having to be in a wheelchair. The looks from people you get when you're in a wheelchair at my age or when you have a cane at my age, it's hard. There's people that are rude. The last time we traveled to California, the lady that drove from the car lot to the airport was like, why do you have a cane? You're so young. I couldn't even believe it, but it was really hard. So my life has to be planned out a lot, thought through a lot, and that's why if you read the spoon theory, which I'm going to link below, it will kind of help you understand that. But then when Justin and I went back to Disneyland by ourselves, we did nothing the day after flying. Then when we went to Disney, I was able to walk the whole time. I was able to ride the rides I wanted to ride. I was able to enjoy myself. So I'm going to ask you guys, on May 12th, if you will wear purple for me, or if you have fibro, wear purple for yourself, or if you know someone with fibro, wear purple for them. If you don't have anything purple, just go get a little purple ribbon. Just do that for me. Help me spread awareness, because the more awareness we have and the more people understand that it is not something you joke about in a movie, it is not some made-up disease, the more awareness is brought to it, the more research we can get done, and the better chance I have at a cure. I also want you guys to know that every single day of my life, I wake up and thank God that it is only this. If this is the cross I have to bear, per se, or the thing God throws in there to see, let's see how she faces this struggle, then I'm thankful that it's not something that can kill me. I'm thankful for the life I've had, the things I've done, and the things to come. I'm thankful for my husband, my family, my fur babies. I'm just thankful for so much in my life. Every time I start to feel sorry for myself about my infertility, about my fibromyalgia, God kind of smacks me in the face a little bit, and there's always something on TV about people in Nepal and the earthquake, or people living in shacks, children starving to death. And I realize it's not that bad. It's not, I'm very blessed. So, but I would appreciate you guys wearing purple for yourselves. If you have fibro, spread the word. Don't be scared. Share some fibro awareness stuff on your Facebook, on your social media. Get it out there. If you guys don't have fibro or knew nothing about it before this, wear purple for me on May 12th. Wear a purple ribbon. Talk about it. Share something about it on Facebook. I would appreciate it so much, and I know all you guys with fibro would appreciate that. And I hope this video helped you guys understand a little bit of my personal life when you hear me talk about fibromyalgia, what my life is like with that. And I hope you guys will be more caring and understanding of people with invisible illnesses like fibromyalgia, because to most people I look perfectly healthy. And I think that's why it's hard for people to understand what we go through, because we don't have outward signs of what's going on the inside, unless of course we are on our cane or in a wheelchair. That's the hard thing about living with an invisible illness. There's nothing that shows people what we're going through, and that's another difficult thing for people understanding why it's real or that it's real. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to sit through this probably very long video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!